Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It's another episode of the Bunker Boys podcast here on Jackwagon Sports. We had a awesome week at the RBC Canadian Open, leading into what's going to be another great weekend at the U.S. Open. I'm sure. We talked a lot last week about how we thought the LIV merger news, the PIF fund, essentially buying out the PGA Tour, and how a lot of the headlines might be focused on that all weekend. Revolving around Rory and some of these other guys. And on Sunday, Nick Taylor and Tommy Fleetwood stole the show. They put on an absolute, clinic on Sunday, both getting to really good scores, getting into a playoff. Both RBC events this year have been spectacular. The RBC in Harbour Town with the three playoff holes. This goes to four.
Mhm.
Um, so, Slade, just your thoughts. You got to watch a little bit more than I did, just with me traveling this weekend. Just your thoughts on the overall tournament and especially the playoff on Sunday.
Yeah, so I mean, I thought like you had explained the tournament very well, but in terms of the playoff itself, I mean, it was electric. It started out with, I believe you and Sam were both unable to watch the first hole, and so I was trying to kind of explain that. I mean, they uh, oh crap, what's his name? F- Fleetwood.
Fleetwood,
Yeah,
yeah.
he hit it into the thick rough on his first shot, and then his second shot hits it over by the stadium stuff. And I thought that he was in a sand bunker at first. Luckily, he's right out of it. Um, and I honestly thought that with him being able to get on the green with his third shot there, then that he was going to be able to kind of capitalize. Then
Mhm.
especially with them moving to the second playoff hole, and then just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then I think it was what 72-foot putt
Yeah.
is what ends up going in. Mayhem happens. You have Hadwin trying to get over there with some champagne, and he gets tackled by a security guard. Uh, it was just very very fun to watch and just electric. What were your thoughts? Because you got to watch the last three playoff holes, correct?
The last two, or yeah, I got there right as they were finishing up the end of the second. Um, but I mean, just all around, I feel like this is a very well planned out event. I mean, RBC puts a lot of effort into it, just as they do in Harbour Town, but this one especially because you can tell it means a little bit more to these people. I love the setup of 14, the par three with the hockey boards around it and the people smacking it as they're teeing off. Not quite the atmosphere of the Waste Management Open, but it's its own unique thing. And I love when golf courses are able to do that in tournaments where they bring a unique element to it. And I think the RBC Canadian Open does an amazing job of that. And for the Canadian fans having to wait, it was 69 years for another Canadian to win it. There was a couple getting into contention there on the weekend, but Hadwin ends up finishing T12. And Nick Taylor just puts on an amazing final round. It started to look like he might, fumble there at the end. He kind of struggled. Makes a huge birdie on 18 to take the outright lead, and then you had Tommy Fleetwood come along, birdie 16 and 17 to put himself in the position, and just kind of struggled off the tee on 18. And that's another thing I want to talk about here is Fleetwood. You had brought up the point that he teed off the first. He put out an iron this time, made it well short. Um, and a lot of people were confused. I thought it was more of a smart play to tee up to lay up from there, and then you're in a little bit more of a better position to attack the green. Especially, it's probably in his head at that point. He also in regulation. If he hits into the rough and made that look very difficult for him, he was trying to spin the fairway and move this away from there. I didn't hate the idea. The point where I thought he maybe got a little is on the final playoff hole when he hit into the bunker, and then that's already a layup. Just shanks the iron, and then he lays up from there to end up well short of the green. I thought from there, with the lie he had, everything looked fine. The announcers thought he was going to go for it. Also, he puts out another iron, lays up well short of the green. I think in that situation, you can't afford to have back-to-back layups, and so that's where I really feel like he was in his own head, and that's what lost him. I think at that point, you're on the fourth playoff hole. You've been playing well. Let's go for the green here. Let's try and take some momentum away from Taylor. Taylor didn't have an easy lie either. We are talking about he might have been a pitch mark or a divot, and then he hits a great shot, gets on the green, and makes that 72. But, um, but just your thoughts on Fleetwood's conservative play? Was it a little bit too conservative, or what?
I think it was very conservative. I think that him hitting iron instead of a hybrid or wood of some sort off of the tee box on all of his plays at 18 was very conservative. I mean, he is still like 270 out sometimes from the hole based on his iron shot from the tee box. I mean, it was, I think, 496 yards is the 18th hole. So, I mean, even if he's hitting it 220 or something like that, it's three, whatever the deal is, he's still sitting over 200 yards out from the green. I mean, you're not giving yourself a great opportunity to make a little bit more of an easier shot for your approach shot there. And I think that because he had the approach shot go over on his first time over there by the little part by the bunker and the wall where the stadium was connected to it there, I think that he kind of scared himself into like, okay, maybe if I just play conservative and don't make a bad play here, he has to make a mistake. And I mean, if a 72-foot putt doesn't go in, then we get to see that probably play out and then go to another one, But it
Right.
was just the fact that he did that for three. Well, he played that hole four times that day. So they played it for the first playoff hole, the second, and the fourth, right?
Mhm, yeah.
And so, um, I mean, that was his fourth time playing that hole for the day, and to go conservative four times like that, I mean, I think that it was going to catch up with him eventually.
Yeah. Like I said, off the tee, I'm okay with just because he had played so well from in that intermediate to the short game. But yeah, I think on the fourth hole when you do back to back layups like that in a situation when like his lie was perfect in that bunker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had to lift it up over the edge a little bit, but I mean the way he was hitting the ball, I don't think that was a problem. Um, and unfortunately, he's got to wait a little bit longer to get his first win. But I mean, huge shout out to Nick Taylor and playing so well. He ends the 16 on near draw for Canadians at their home open. So that's huge. And I think these are two guys we're going to be hearing more and more of going forward this year. I think Fleetwood, his first win's got to be coming soon. I mean, he's always right there. I think this is his sixth second place finish now. Um, but I'm excited to see where both of these guys going forward. Let's go ahead. Let's shift over to the U.S. Open. We're going to talk a little bit of fantasy now. Uh, our fantasy league is tightening up very quickly. I had a chance to get it. I think the overall lead to 6 points this past week, 6 or 7 points, and I think I'm 16 or 17 back now. I can't remember exactly, but um, couldn't quite capitalize on everybody else having pretty much the same lineup. And then it came down to Sam and I. I had Fleetwood, and Sam had Eric Cole, who finished just outside of the top five. So that got me a couple more points. And if Fleetwood would have won, it would have made my whole day. But that doesn't happen. But still, the race is tightening up between us. I'm just 11 back at you now. Nick's still struggling a little bit, but I think he'll be fine. There's still plenty. There's 12 weeks left now. So if he's going to make a move, he's going to have to do it soon here. But
Mm.
let's go ahead. Let's look at our fantasy lineups for this week at the U.S. Open. First pickup is John Rahm, the Masters champion. He's still playing very good golf now, even though it seems like it's a little off brand for him. I know he struggled at the PGA championship, but he's heading back to California, where he always seems to just play so well, especially in these big tournaments. His first major championship was at the U.S. Open at Torrey Pines. So heading back to California, across the street from where he won back in February at the Genesis Open, essentially. So I think he's going to bring that excellent play that we always see out of him, and I think he's going to have a great week. Speaking of guys that play really well in California, is Max Homa. I know the big thing everybody's kind of looking at is he played here in the Pac-12 championships when he was in college and he won. I think this is a completely different course. I know they put a lot of renovations into this. Since then, I mean, there's still going to be some things around the course that obviously are very familiar to him. But he's kind of started to regain some momentum here after he lost it. Again, I feel like at the Genesis Open, he kind of struggled since then, not having the finishes that we would expect out of him. But I think he's going to perform really well here in front of his hometown crowd, and I'm expecting big things out of him. I've had him tabbed since pretty much the Genesis Open to be one of the favorites at the U.S. Open, and so I don't see any reason to change that now. Matt Fitzpatrick, defending U.S. Open champion. Again, I think there's a lot of expectations on him for this weekend. Another thing I'm looking at with him this week is Let me pull it up here. He's had 4 top 20 finishes in his last couple events. He's again another player that's playing really well here, going the last couple weeks, and I think the U.S. Open, the style of U.S. Open courses just fit his game really well, and I'm expecting him to be in contention again for another win. Kepka, T2 at the Masters, wins the PGA Championship. Clearly, the live schedule is working out for him.
Mhm.
He's won back-to-back U.S. Opens before, so again, styles of golf that really fits his game, and I'm expecting him to play well this week and continue that. Victor Hovland, another guy who's just been playing really well lately, finally gets his win at the Memorial Tournament, and maybe that monkey off his back will help him going forward. We saw him play so well at the PGA Championship and the Masters as well. So both major championships this year, he's looked really good. So I don't see any reason for him not to look good this week. And next up is Cam Smith. Hasn't really been outstanding in the majors, but he's been quietly up there on the leaderboards. He finished T9 at the PGA Championship, and I think he's going to continue getting himself into better and better shape heading into the Open Championship, where he has to go defend his title. So those are the two live guys I'm going to be taking. And I think this is going to be a great lineup. I think it's going to be a tough week. I know there's going to be a lot of guys up on the leaderboard that we aren't expecting, like we had Joel Damon last year. But Slay, let's go ahead and let's look at your pick for this week.
Yeah, so a couple of repeats. I had to go with the three live guys that I expect to use their kind of schedule, like you had mentioned, to their advantage here. Being able to kind of train for these specific tournaments and having a couple of weeks where you don't have to play back to back to back tournaments is really an advantage at this point. I mean, we've seen it with Brooks Koepka. Dustin Johnson has had some good finishes at the two tournaments he got to play. So Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, Cam Smith, I had to put them on the team. It also saves me picks for some of the FedEx Cup play at the end of the season then.
Mhm.
I definitely went with Victor Hovland. I think that he is very capable of doing like a couple of top fives back to back and then being able to compete right up there for top two finish the week after. So I think that he's a really good pick for this upcoming weekend. John Rahm, because it seems like there's a couple weeks where Scotty Scheffler takes over number one, and then John Rahm comes back and takes a tournament win and tries to take it back. It seems like they're going to be the top two dogs at like that top tier, and then there's a couple of guys below them. So it's going to take one of them messing up for someone else to be able to win when they're both in these big tournaments like this.
Yeah.
And then my last person's Max Homa. I wasn't going to pick him, but when he was paired, who was he paired with to play with this week? Let me look here real quick. Uh,
He's with Scheffler and Morikawa.
yeah, so so he had said that it's nice that they put the three good-looking guys together or whatever, and I just thought that was funny, so I figured, yeah, he's feeling loose, he's ready to play.
Yeah, I think the last 2 weeks off will help him a lot as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you and I just talked a lot about the live guys and the ones that we're putting
Mm-hmm.
into our lineup this week. Um, we've seen Brooks Koepka win the PGA Championship. He looked good at the Masters. Mickelson looked good at the Masters. Patrick Reed somehow looked good at the Masters. Um, we've had all these live players playing so well. Do you think this will be another strong showing for live at another major championship? Do you think a live player wins this weekend?
Um, I don't. I think that John Rahm and Scotty Scheffler are really going to put up a fight this time. I think that they're both looking, in terms of John Rahm, I think he was a little still not 100% at the last couple tournaments, but I think that him and Scheffler going out there, I think that they're going to realize that this is not only a chance for them to kind of get out there and score some more FedEx points, get a win, but it's also the PGA's chance to kind of put up or shut up. I mean, if you lose three tournaments that these guys are the only three tournaments these guys are able to play in, it and you just sold out.
Yeah.
It starts looking very, very bad for the PGA. I mean, John Rahm has already said that it's been speculated that he was the next person that was going to be offered the big check and possibly go over before the PGA and Live merger, and so And now he's made comments about how he just thinks they should all be able to play together and whatnot. And so I think that one of these two guys I think is going to be able to get the win this weekend. It would be very, very disappointing if Phil Mickelson is the one to win, just for everybody involved, Rory especially.
Yeah. No,
What do
I
you
agree with
think?
you. I don't think a live player is going to win this week. I think they're still going to be in contention.
Mm-hmm.
Again, major championships just seem to fit Brooks Koepka. Um, but I think overall, I think the PGA is just like you said. I think they're a little bit more determined this week, but that could also lead to them making more mistakes as well. But I think the one thing helping maybe PGA players the most is they're coming off the Memorial Tournament 2 weeks ago, which basically the course played like a U.S. Open Championship course does. Every week or every year we hear about, oh my God, the rough is so thick, and you can barely find your ball when it's just off the fairway. Fairways are really sloped, like you hit it dead center. Next thing you know, you're in the rough. And I really feel like Memorial played very similar. And so I think these guys got a nice little tune up 2 weeks ago, and I think they're ready. Um, so I think a PGA player wins again, but I think it's definitely close again. I think Kipka's up there fighting for the win, and it's gonna be a lot of fun to watch. Just give me a guess, how many or a prediction? How many live players do you think finish in the top 10 this week?
We're going ties count.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there could be 20 guys tied for
Yeah.
top 10. Okay. I think 3 guys in the top 10.
I was gonna say 3 or 4. I'll go 4. I can see somebody dumb like Patrick Reed
Mm.
somehow playing really well and ends up there.
He's high in the power rankings, and it was surprising the shit out of me.
Yeah. Um, let's go ahead. Let's look at our cash out picks for this week. Just 2 for you. And it's going to be DeChambeau over Justin Thomas. I picked this one. I think DeChambeau plays really well again at this U.S. Open style course. He played really well at the PGA Championship. Justin Thomas, I don't understand what's going on with him this year. When it seems like he starts to get something figured out, you look at him the next day, he looks horrible. So I think DeChambeau is going to play better than Thomas in round one. That's minus 110 odds. And the other pick is Tyrrell Hatton to finish top 20. I don't know how this is plus 120. The way he played last week, the way he's been playing here lately altogether. I almost put him in my fantasy lineup again, but I think I'm almost out of uses for him. Um, but I'm expecting him to have another really good showing coming off that strong performance where he was up there. He put himself in a position to get into a playoff. I was honestly really hoping we had a 6-way playoff to end the RBC Canadian Open,
That would have been really
just
cool.
just just to see how it would work. Just because I'm curious on how they would do that. Um, but I think he's just playing really good golf right now. So seeing this at plus 120 was surprising to me, and I think it's a great take. Um, so we're going to move over to growing our game. We had the Jackwagon Sports Cup this weekend. Unfortunately, Slade is still holding on to the trophy. But just since you're the winner, I'll let you talk through it first. Just your thoughts on the day overall as a whole, and then kind of any comments you have about your game or my game or anything else you want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I think that uh, we all had great parts of the day. I think that Nick came out really great in the first 9 holes, kind of similar to last year. Um, and so I think that he was leading, like going into like the 7th or 8th hole or something like that.
Hmm.
And then I think that we had gotten close to being like tied or something going into the 9th hole. Uh, you had like a really big come from behind because at one point I think that you might have been like 7 strokes off the lead or something like that, and ended up coming back to what was the difference, 1 or 2 strokes at the
I
end.
lost by 2. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was just really crazy to see you have like a great like last 13 holes to the day. That was just the first few holes that kind of put you behind. Nick started out with like a great 7 holes, and then he would have a couple of good holes, but I think that he would kind of get stuck, like if he was in a bunker or something like that. That's kind of where it added a few strokes to his. Um, I kind of tried to play it um, without my driver if I didn't need to as much
Yeah.
because it was necessary.
Yeah.
Uh, it was funny. We went with Chris, also another guy that we're friends with, and um, it I just kept making jokes about how I'm gonna 3 putt every hole and I can hit my drive about 100 yards straight, and then it's gonna make a direct left-hand turn 50 yards into the woods, and that's exactly what it would do. I had one good drive, which was the 18th hole.
Which is the one I needed you not to have a good drive.
And it was just really fun overall. But yeah, I think that putting is still something that I really need to work on. Speed control, especially. I think I did better than what I expected with my speed control, but I still had a ton of three putts, which ultimately is something that I could cut a ton of strokes off if I would be able to figure that part of it out. Um, Obviously, the driving, being able to not slice the ball would be great, but it's easier to work around that than it is putting. You could just down club and hit something straight out there and then go from there versus putting the ball 15 yards past the hole and then having to put it, like just playing putt around basically.
Right.
What were your thoughts on the weekend?
Um, one, that was the best golf I think you and I have played. I mean, me in a long time, but I know this was your best round ever, you said. But I
Mm-hmm.
think just in the being around other people and it being a competition as well, this is the best I played. I hit 57% of the fairways. And the two I really missed. One, I just straight up shanked it. And the second one I remember missing. Um, or missing bad, I should say, was I think 8 when we're coming back, and then I just hit it too long into the woods. It didn't curve like I thought it would, and probably the best shot I hit all day, and it just went straight into the woods. And then there was also I think it's 4 where the water was there, and like it was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, that's good, and then it just hit the ground, and it skipped over, and I was like, ah,
Yeah.
okay. Um, but other than that, I felt like that's the best I've ever driven the ball. Where I felt like I lost so many strokes, and what cost me a lot is I only hit 5% greens in regulation according to this. I think I only hit 2, and a lot of that came down to let's see, yeah, no, I hit 1 green. I hit 1 green in regulation, um, and a lot of that came down to I put myself in great position off the tee box and with my approaches. It's just I chipped the ball okay, and,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't duffing my chips, I was getting the ball up. I just was not getting the distance right at all. I was like, "Okay, don't kill this, don't smoke it over the green," and I hit it, and it only go about 5 feet. I'm like, "Oh, I can hit that harder." And then I go to the next chip, I'm like, I can hit this harder," and I hit it harder, and I'd smoke it over the back of the green. So, um, I feel like if I can do a better job of controlling the distance on my chips, that'll knock a couple strokes off, and then I'm in the same boat as you. I need to putt a lot better. 2.4 putts per hole, but I feel like there was a ton of 3 putts. There was a few 4 putts in there as well. So if everybody talks about how short game is where you take a lot of strokes off. I really felt like my short game was okay. I just needed to get the ball in better position off the tee and my approaches and stuff. And sure enough, I did that, and I still wasn't knocking as many strokes off as I thought I would.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna be practicing a lot of short game here, my putting and chipping especially. But um, I'm looking forward to the next time we play. I think when we played last August too, it was just the three of us, and I feel like we knew it was a competition, but we took it as a competition at face value. We weren't really talking and joking around and stuff as much as we did this time. I think having a fourth person there who didn't give a shit what we were doing, helped. And, we're talking about our rules. You only get 3 mulligans. He's like, "This is stupid." I was like, "Chris, you can take as many mulligans as you want." He's like, "Oh, okay. Well, then yeah, that's what I'm gonna do." But that just added another element. It was a lot of fun doing that as well. Um, but yeah, I think we played good, but there's definitely obviously shooting 110 and 112. There's room for improvement, but
Mm-hmm.
that was the most. It gave me hope for my golf game going forward. I'll say that. And then those giant hot dogs, they got me sick. Didn't really
Yeah.
help.
So how many hot dogs did you eat?
I ate 3, and then I threw one up.
Uh-huh.
I'm still blaming it on the fact that I ate it and then immediately tried to take a shot of rum.
Yeah. Yeah.
But but yeah, I mean, your drive on 18 was still insane to see. Your mulligan. I just wish I didn't remind you you had a mulligan.
Yeah.
Because it would have been interesting to see what happened with that. Because you struggled to get out of that bunker, but my luck, you would have went out there and whacked the next shot onto the green anyway and made it hard. So it was a lot of fun. I look forward to the next one. So Slade is still our champion. moving on to our blind top five for this week. Slade, you're in charge of it, so why don't you go ahead and tell us about it?
Yeah, so I pick golf scenarios. It's kind of like you're standing there with this shot. Uh, where would you rank this from 1 to 5 in terms of like ideal versus least ideal?
Right.
Just to kind of give an idea. The first one that I went with was you're on a par five and you hit your tee shot and it goes into the water. So you're already starting with your third shot for your next shot, you know.
Yeah.
Where would you rank that in terms of ideal? I mean, it is a par five, so
Hmm.
and you're on your third shot, but this is just in terms of like ideal trying to get par with these scenarios, you know.
Um, that's super not ideal, especially trying to get
Right.
par. But I don't know. I feel like you got something worse coming, so I'm gonna put it at 4.
All right. Um, the next one is you're on a par four and your second shot goes into the greenside bunker.
I'm gonna put that at 3 because, especially this past weekend, I thought my bunker play was one thing I was most worried about, and somehow I actually played really well. I think I struggled to
Yeah.
get out of one bunker,
Hmm.
um, but I'll put that at 3 just because
Okay.
you're close to the green. I mean, a decent shot, and that'll put you up there, and then you just got to make your putt par,
Hmm.
depending on where the pin is and all this stuff. But I'll put that at 3.
Okay. The next one is Meadowbrooks. I think it's hole three. It's an
Oh my
island
god,
par
I
three.
yeah,
You're just standing on the tee box. This is the start of the hole, par
yeah.
three.
Um, if you would have asked me 3 months ago, I would have said 5. But, for some I picked up a few tips off of TikTok, and they seem to be helping my iron play and going a lot straighter. So, I'm gonna put that at 2.
Okay.
Island greens don't scare me as much, it's just getting that distance right. Depends on what the wind is, but I'll put that at 2.
Okay. Um, Next one is you're on a par four. Your drive off the tee goes into a very thick high rough.
I'll put that at 5 just because 1, that's I mean, that's not gonna
Hmm.
be the most ideal. Um, if I could go back and switch them, I would put the water at 5. The rough would be at 4, just because you could still either punch out of it and then maybe you get lucky and you get a good second shot, you get it closer to the green. But
Hmm.
we'll put that at 5.
And then I kind of should have switched these up because it's a straight 380-yard par four. Um, I figured that it's completely straight puts a little bit of controversy into it because you have to hit perfect straight shots, you know, but definitely falls into your number one slot just due to elimination, you know.
Yeah,
But also, I think that probably had I asked you at any other point, might have been one or two, just not knowing what else is coming, you know.
yeah, I mean that would one. It has to fall into 1, but I think that would be my number one. Looking at everything as well, just
Yeah.
because worst case, I mean, if I learned Saturday when we played, and it's one thing that's been in my head the most is you don't have to smoke everything. You're not going to hit every drive 300 yards, or plus. I'm fine taking a 250-yard drive or even maybe a little bit less. Just hit it easy. Let's get it onto the fairway. I thought that was my what helped my driving the most this week is one, not slicing it, but two, like just get it out there. Let's get it down. Um, and I mean that's what helped I think my driver play the most. So
Mhm.
knowing what your those 5 are, how would you rank those for you?
So I kind of put them in terms of like how I said them. So I would do the straight 380-yard par four as my number
Mm.
one.
Yeah.
Um, the par four drive off the tee goes into thick high rough. I put that at number two,
Okay.
just because it's a par four. I would probably just kind of try and chip it out with like a sandwich or something like that, just to get it into the fairway and then go from there.
Mhm.
Um, At three, I would go with the par three island hole, staying on the tee box, just because I've played it enough in Meadowbrook to know that it's not that easy. Number four, par four shot goes into the greenside bunker, partially because it almost cost me a tournament win this last weekend. I was in the greenside bunker. um, And then at 5, par 5 tee shot goes into the water. Starting on the third shot, it's very difficult for me to hit the ball far compared to both you and Nick, with you guys being taller. You guys just have a lot more power. So like with you were saying, like if you have to take a 250-yard drive, you'll do it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm happy with 250-yard drive. So yeah, I think that that would have to be my 5, just because I can't afford to lose any strokes, and that one
Yeah.
already takes it away completely, you know?
Right. Yeah. That was a good top 5. But yeah, so that'll wrap up our podcast for this week. We hope you guys enjoy the U.S. Open this week. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there as well.
Happy
Um,
Father's Day to you, George.
yeah.
First one.
Yep. Little buddy's over there sleeping right now. So appreciate him letting me get the podcast in so you can head to work. But we're gonna be back next week to break down the U.S. Open. It's gonna be a ton of fun. I'm also playing around this weekend, so we can talk about that as well.
Nice,
Um,
nice.
but we'll have a full show for you guys next week. We hope you come back and join us, and have a great rest of your week.